With a full week of NFL games being played, there are bound to be overreactions, and in today's video, we're going to have a few reasonable overreactions. On the weekly recaps, I like to summarize a game quickly but concisely, knowing full well we are going to dive into how team seasons are going later in the week, and this is a perfect example of that. And in today's video, we're going to be discussing a few takeaways that either we reaffirmed heading into the season, or was drastically different than what we believed heading into the year, or even just a week or two ago. And these are overreactions within reason, so don't expect anything like CJ Stroud is going to face off against Bryce Young at the Super Bowl this year or anything like that. But who knows, maybe it's time for the Bengals to replace Joe Burrow after an 82-yard performance in week 1. But all jokes aside, there is a lot to dive into in today's video, and with that preface out of the way, let's begin. And we are starting today's video by talking about the Los Angeles Chargers, and like we said in the intro, we're not going to have any scorching hot takes, but I really worry about the future of this team, and by future, to be clear, I mean the season-long outlook, and it doesn't have anything to do with the talent on the roster. It has to do with the head coach in Brandon Staley. If you look at the raw numbers for the Chargers and see Justin Herbert didn't have a great game, at least relative to the Justin Herbert we know, and saw the team ran for over 230 yards and 3 touchdowns, you would probably think they won the game, and probably even won comfortably, and understandably so. They averaged nearly 6 yards per carry and put up 34 points at home, which should be enough for a win. But Dolphins quarterback Tua Tagovailoa threw for 466 yards and 3 passing touchdowns, and Miami won by 2. And I fear it's going to be this type of year for the Chargers in the sense of losing games in this manner. Miami isn't quiet about what they like to do offensively. They had 2 receivers finish in the top 10 in receiving yards last year, and both are speed demons in Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, and they combined for over 3,000 yards receiving in 2022. And what really bothers me about this loss isn't even the fact that the Chargers lost the game. It's the fact that you had all summer to prepare for this and know in week 1 what Miami is going to try to do, and that's get their playmakers the football. And while the Chargers didn't register a sack, I'm not panicking on that because Tua did a great job of getting the ball out fast to ensure he didn't get drilled by either of the big boys in Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa. And for what it's worth, Mack and Bosa combined for 10 pressures in this game. But what worries me with the Chargers is finishing their 2022 season the way they did in what was a blown 27-point lead, and starting off on the wrong foot with a home loss to Miami in what was a very winnable game. And to even drive this point home more, the Chiefs, the same team you've been chasing for 7 years now, had a rare trip up and lost in week 1, and a home loss at that. And you had a chance to be a game ahead of them after a single week. This wasn't a case where both teams start out 4 or 5-0 and you're hoping the other loses, or maybe you even beat them. You had a chance to set the tone early, and Tyreek Hill went into SoFi Stadium and had his 3rd career 200-yard, 2-touchdown game. And the Chargers' next 2 games are in Tennessee and in Minnesota, both of which are going to be tough. Each of those games are, of course, winnable, but they're certainly not going to be easy. And in a conference where anybody's misstep is an opportunity for someone else to step up, the Chargers started the year on the exact wrong foot. And I worry, especially with Brandon Staley, who admittedly is a head coach I'm not a fan of and thought he should have been immediately fired after the wildcard loss to Jacksonville, that this is the sign of things to come. They're obviously not doomed in the sense of they're going to be a 6 or 7 win team or anything like this, and their offense will continue to be one of the best in the league, but in the sense of when your season is on the line, I go back to this question. Who are you going to trust more, Brandon Staley or Andy Reid? And that's what I worry about with the 2023 Los Angeles Chargers. And the next overreaction we are going to have is, and honestly I don't think this is too big of an overreaction, but it's that the Dallas Cowboys are legitimate Super Bowl contenders. We discussed this game from the Giants' perspective in Tuesday's video, but it really can't be emphasized how good the Cowboys were in week 1. Having Dan Quinn as the defensive coordinator is truly like having a second head coach, and the big reason why I am so in on Dallas even after a single week is what translates when the weather is bad in the postseason or in a situation where you absolutely have to have a play and have somebody step up. And the answer is pass rush. And the Cowboys have pass rush on pass rush on pass rush. And it is, of course, led by Micah Parsons, who could very easily win the Defensive Player of the Year. And he is off to a hot start in 2023, as he had 6 pressures against the Giants, including a sack, and Daniel Jones was uncomfortable all night long. And in Week 1, the Cowboys had 5 guys register 4 pressures or more, which is downright insane for any team to do in any game, and they truly took meat at the quarterback to a whole new level. And since this pass rush gets home quite often, it's naturally going to benefit a guy who likes to take risks at corner in Trayvon Diggs. As we know, Diggs is a ball-hawking corner, and not only is Dallas's pass rush going to get home often throughout the game, but there's going to be a point in the 2023 season where it gets into opposing quarterbacks' heads, and they're thinking about who's going to get home first before the play even starts. Because in order to stop this team, not only do you have to be strong up front, but you're almost always going to have a tight end or running back either chip or fully stay in the block 6 on 4 or 5, because the guys the Cowboys have at pass rush are that good. And in Week 2, they play the New York Jets, who have their own problems on the offensive line. And in Week 1, the Bills had 3 guys have 5+ pressures on both Aaron Rodgers and Zach Wilson, and none of Ed Oliver, Greg Rousseau, or Leonard Floyd are close to where Micah Parsons specifically is, or collectively where this Cowboys pass rush is. Not even close. And the Cowboys' next 3 games are home against the Jets, in Arizona, and home against the Patriots. And in Week 5, they play in San Francisco on Sunday night. And we could be talking about a 4-0 Cowboys team heading into the Bay Area. And it's not just the defense with Dallas either. Tony Pollard will step up in a big way this year, and in Week 1 alone, he had 82 total yards and 2 touchdowns, and CeeDee Lamb had nearly 80 yards despite the Cowboys not throwing the football a whole lot, because, well, a 40-0 game doesn't call for many passing plays. My only real gripe with Dallas was Mike McCarthy had everyone in the game as long as he did, and I thought that was pretty reckless, but from a sheer talent standpoint, they can go a long way. And I know everyone likes getting their jokes in about the whole 1995 NFC Championship game the last time they were there, but it wouldn't surprise me at all if they get back there this year. Next up is the Chicago Bears are not just a rebuilding team, but their season outlook is a little grim, and here's why. Obviously, losing to your biggest rival to start the year isn't ideal, nor is it something anybody wants to do in Week 1. But this team offensively is not very good, and if you take a look at the weapons Justin Fields is throwing to, truly where do DJ Moore, Darnell Mooney, Chase Claypool, Tyler Scott, and Trent Taylor rank as a receiving core? And you can even throw in Cole Kmet too. But we're in year 3 now with Justin Fields, and in a lot of ways, he's been set up to fail from the start. Whether it was Ryan Pace giving him next to nothing in his rookie year, or Ryan Poles openly tanking in his second year, or what was at minimum a very frustrating loss to start his 3rd year. And granted, this is an overreactions video, so this hopefully will prove to be a dramatic overreaction, but if you're Luke Getsy, the Bears offensive coordinator, knowing the success they had in the preseason, how do you let DJ Moore only get 2 targets in an entire 60-minute game where Justin throws 37 passes? This was a guy who, during trade negotiations with the Carolina Panthers, that Ryan Poles was adamant about getting. The Panthers even offered an extra first-round pick in 2025, but Poles was adamant about getting Justin some help in what would turn out to be DJ Moore. And I love the acquisition of DJ, but 2, not even catches, but 2 targets in his first game is ridiculous. And I know the initial reaction or the initial thing will be, oh, well, Jair is just that good and he locked him up every single play. And while I'm not denying Jair Alexander is a great corner, as 2 All-Pros in the last 3 years doesn't coincidentally happen, but this play in particular here early in the game, the Bears are running a flood concept against quarters coverage, which eventually becomes a man-match coverage, and DJ Moore is one-on-one with safety Darnell Savage. And when you slow it down, it's hard to get more open than this at the NFL level, especially when DJ makes his break. And it's hard to complain about Khalil Herbert picking up a first down on 2nd and 12 early in the game, but the point of having DJ Moore get only 2 targets in 60 minutes is absurd. And I also wanted to point out it wasn't a matter of Jair simply just locking him down the whole game, because he is that good of a player. If Justin has DJ coming out of his break like he very easily could have, this could be a gain of 20 plus yards, and we wouldn't be guessing just a few days after week 1 how much DJ Moore is going to get targeted. And I think that's one of my biggest frustrations with the Bears from week 1, was acquiring a good player and not utilizing him. Granted, there were some plays where Green Bay doubled him and ensured he wouldn't get open, like on this 3rd and 11 in the red zone, as there is no way for Justin to throw this football to DJ here, but this is what concerns me for the Bears 2023 season, and that's consistently missing opportunities. Next up is the Buffalo Bills, and the overreaction here is the concern with quarterback Josh Allen. As we know, Josh is one of the best quarterbacks in all of football, and his peaks are not just some of the best in today's NFL, but some of the most wild Josh Allen plays are truly some of the best you'll see. But with Josh, at times, it's like how it was with Carson Wentz. There's insane highs, but there's also insane lows, and that was magnified on primetime against the Jets in week 1. The Jets defense is outstanding, and despite Aaron Rodgers going down for the year, the run game and the defense will keep them in a lot more games than people may think. And winning games for the Jets is of course a different thing, but Josh Allen was bad in week 1, and it was to the point when watching the game live, the longer the play went on and when Josh was rolling with the football, the more nervous I became. And there are interceptions that aren't the quarterback's fault, most notably in week 1 at least was the Brian Branch pick 6 against the Chiefs as it hit Kadarius Toney in the hands. But the first interception Josh threw was an example of throwing deep to try and make a play without glancing to see if there was another safety on the other side of the field, which of course there was. And in this specific situation, I didn't really have a problem with this interception because it was an arm punt and it pinned the Jets inside their own 5-yard line. Going for a big play or a great punt is completely fine early in the game, and this wasn't a costly turnover in the 4th quarter. Unfortunately, Breece Hall ripped off an 83-yard run and they ended up getting a field goal, but that was more of Breece making a play than anything. Oh well, you live to see another drive. But what I also have concerns with isn't just Josh's turnovers, which has increasingly become a bigger problem by the year. What I am concerned about with Josh is the long-term sustainability of how many hits he takes per game. I understand Josh will lay it all out for the team and you love that thing about him, but in this game alone, he was sacked 5 times and ran the ball 6 times, and he took a few nasty hits, and I worry about Josh playing into his 30s, and especially considering the injury he had last year. I'm not saying to never take a hit or to shy away from all contact, but I think even Bills fans would agree that with the recklessness Josh plays with at times, there's times where Bills Mafia is holding their breath hoping he gets up. And Josh has back-to-back years with 120 plus carries, and I'm not saying to take a big part of his game, which is running the ball and being a dual threat quarterback, completely out. But what I am saying, in what will probably be the 5th straight year of him getting 100 plus carries, is to protect himself. And back to the interception part, I worry internally for the Bills at some point in a big game after Josh throws an early interception that there's a collective, oh boy, here we go again. Because dating back to the 2022 season, Josh has thrown an interception in 5 straight games, and that's obviously going to limit what your team can do in the long run. I hope you enjoyed the overreactions, and if you did, please like the video and subscribe, as only about 23% of people watching are subscribed, and it makes a massive difference. My Patreon and Twitter links are in the description if you'd like to support the channel, and until the next team preview, please be safe and have a great day. Love you guys.